Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our learned silks. Good afternoon to my learned colleagues. So incredibly excited to have you here with us today. I would like to, first of all, welcome you to our webinar on personal branding for your legal career. It's hosted by the NBA section on legal practice, the Law Firm Management Committee. My name is Zerona Phillips, and I'll be your moderator for the session. Whether you're just starting out on or in the legal profession, or you're looking to enhance your career trajectory, personal branding has become an essential tool in establishing your presence, both online and offline. So before we get started, I'd first like to take a few moments to recognize our learned silk, Mrs. Boma Alabi, OONSAN, who's the chairman of the NBA section on legal practice. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being our chairperson. And to jumpstart and to kick off, I'd like to call on, introduce, and recognize our learned silk, the chairperson of the NBA Law Firm Management Committee, the NBA section on legal practice, Mrs. Folashade Ali, to give us the welcome address. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Zaruna. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Leonard Silks here online, distinguished speakers, my dear panelists, colleagues, and all the young ones who have graciously joined us this afternoon. It's indeed with pleasure and profound sense of purpose that I welcome everyone to this webinar that is themed Building a Personal Brand in Your Legal Career. And it's been organized by the NBA section on legal practice, the Law Firm Committee, of which I'm proud to be the chairman. Today's session represents the dialogue that I think we all should be having about ourselves and the success and the dynamic and evolving one that we all live in this virtual world. I know that we have a lot of the panelists have been carefully chosen about building a personal brand. And for me, I always ask the question, what's a brand? Your brand is is it what people say about you when you're not in the room, or what you want people to say about you? If you don't brand yourself, someone else will. And that's what I always tell people. I'm not going to say more than that, because then I'll be doing the work of the panelists here. And I'm just happy to say that we have seasoned professionals who have successfully built enduring brands, and young professionals are thriving to hear about them. As young lawyers, you have the opportunity to define your path and what you want to stand out to be known for. So on behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice, I encourage all of you to please listen to our speakers with curiosity. Please ask every question you want to ask. Feel free to ask, learn. That's why they volunteered the time to speak to you today. And let today be the day that you have always remembered, and that you mark as the beginning of your journey towards building a personal brand that reflects your aspirations and that contributes to the collective excellence of our legal profession. Hopefully, you'll learn something today. So thank you very much all for joining. And I will hand over to the moderator, who I'm sure would do an excellent job today. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you very much, Ma. I love that she said that if you don't brand yourself, someone else will. And we certainly don't want that. So first and foremost, before we move on, I'd like to please remind everyone, just some housekeeping, if you will. Please mute yourself. If you have any questions, you can just jot them down in the chat box, and we will take them at the end of the session. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's get started. So in today's competitive landscape, sorry, quick reminder, please mute yourself. Thank you so much. In today's competitive landscape, how you present yourself professionally can open doors to opportunities you might not even know exist. From crafting your LinkedIn profile to demonstrating your expertise in a niche area, personal branding is about much more than having a professional headshot. Okay, it's about intentionally shaping how others perceive you as a legal professional. So we're so fortunate to have an exceptional panel of experts with us today who bring diverse and invaluable perspectives on this subject. So without further ado, let's meet them. First, my senior Leonard colleague, Mr. Ayuli Jemide. Thank you very much for being here with us today, sir. Mr. Jemide, or AJ, right, is a founder and lead partner of Detail Commercial Solicitors, Nigeria's first non-courtroom law firm. He's recognized as best lawyer in Nigeria, and his innovative approach to law and business have made him a trailblazer in commercial practice. Thank you again, sir.
Pleasure, sir.
Next year, we have Dr. Janet Adetu, an executive coach, etiquette expert, and leadership strategist. A Forbes Coaches Council member, Dr. Adetu's expertise in executive presence and career growth makes her an inspiring voice for professionals looking to enhance their corporate image. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Omori Edo-Jiawere. Amari and I go way back. He's my big brother-in-law. Thank you for joining us today. Amari is a leading startup attorney and founder of Edo-Jiawere and Company legal practitioners. He's known for redefining Nigeria's startup landscape, and he blends his expertise in technology, innovation, and law to help businesses thrive in a fast-changing world. And last but not least, we have Mrs. Oyinkan Egwabo. Hi, Oyinkan. Oyinkan is a lawyer and brand strategist who combines her experience in business advisory and creative design to craft authentic, impactful brand identities as a founding partner of Aceda Creative Agency. So please join me one more time in welcoming our panelists. And I'm very excited about all we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get started. AJ, if I may start with you, as a pioneer in non-courtroom legal practice, you've built a standout brand. What does personal branding, what does it mean to you?
When you stand in front of the mirror, what you see is a reflection, right? And actually, that's the authentic you, right? So I think a personal brand actually first starts from authenticity. However you position yourself should resemble you. It should be in your nature, and it should be in your character. If you've read the book, there's a great book I recommend. It's called Shoe Dog, and it's written by the founder of Nike. And he says, I want to be what everybody wants. And what is that? To be me, right? So for me, your personal brand is just first and foremost to be you. And however you are, there's something good about it that you can accentuate. So I think that's the first thing. And once you get that authenticity right, and you push the envelope on who you really are and the authenticity of yourself, I think great brands tend to inspire you and also inspire others. And what's the inspiration? There has to be some catch to who you are as a person. It's the same thing with corporate brands. So usually when you think about Coke, the buzzword is happiness, Coke and a smile. So I think you have to ask yourself, my look and feel, how does it inspire me? And how does it inspire others? And I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, sir. You've given us a lot to think about already right off the bat. I love that you said that your look and feel, how does it make us feel and how does it make others feel? Oyinkan, as someone who has blended legal practice with brand strategy, how can you do that? How can you take your look and feel, how you present yourself, what people perceive when they come in contact with you, whether it's online or whether it's in person, right? How can you take that and translate it in the legal profession? We're used to being buttoned up, black and white, right? But this concept of look and feel is very, almost the first thing that comes to mind is abstract, so how do you then condense it and boil it down into the legal profession?
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, it's really interesting. Just going off what some of our senior colleagues have said, branding really is about perception, and it is about how people feel when they think about you. It's about the real estate that you occupy in people's minds. We live in an age where there's so much choice. People are bombarded every day with content. They're bombarded every day with options, even within the legal profession. So your brand is that real estate that you occupy in a person's mind and the perception you've built over time. So when talking specifically about look and feel and how you can start to think about curating that so as not to kind of overwhelm. I know lawyers tend to be, I guess, more left brain, logical thinkers, so as not to overwhelm. You're trying to reverse engineer it. So you need to start from, first of all, like was said earlier, who are you authentically? What perception are you trying to put forward? And then you can, if you reverse engineer that, arrive at what are some of these kind of ingredients that I have at my disposal? And how can I intentionally curate those ingredients to present a consistent look and feel? So bringing it to the practical, what ingredients do we all have at our disposal? Our image, you're literally the picture that you have of yourself. That's literally a look and feel touch point. So what pictures do you use online? What pictures do you use on your professional profiles? What images do you use when you're on a webinar? Things like that. How are you dressed when you're in a professional environment? So your image is something that everybody has at their disposal and something you can already start to intentionally craft, even before going into the more, nuanced things around look and feel, like social media and how to actually present your graphics in a way that's consistent, what kinds of colors you're associated with. All of those are more technical, but just dialing it back to just how you actually present yourself, that already builds a perception in people's mind. And it doesn't have to be a one-track thing. It's really about who you authentically are and who you're trying to reach. So if you're trying to reach a more casual audience, for example, maybe startup founders, things like that. And if that's how you authentically present yourself as well, maybe that's actually how you approach your look and feel, as it were, how you present yourself. But yeah, that's just to think about the look and feel point specifically.
Thank you, Oyinkan. Omari, I wanted to ask you, why should lawyers care about their personal branding? We are known as the law. Shouldn't that be enough?
So I'll start by, sorry, I'm just recovering from a cold, so my voice may be a bit blotched. But I'll start by using this phrase, and I know that AJ, Mr. Jemide, would have heard this phrase many times. Image is nothing. Perception is everything. Image is who you say you are. Perception is who they say you are. And in the legal profession, our image, a lot of us are fluttering at the thresholds of delusions of grandeur. And that's because who we say we are is not in sync with who they say we are. The profession continues to receive, some bashing here and there, based on public perception, based on legal education and the archaic nature of it. based on certain traditional systems or stereotypes that we seem to be boxed into. So when you come into such a profession, it's important that you now begin to define yourself intentionally to be able to create a narrative where people can now have a perception of you. What we have oftentimes are lawyers who are comfortable in who they say they are without going deeper into who the public is saying we are. So just to put it in a bit of context, right? The average Nigerian sees lawyers from a charge and bail perspective. Average. I use that phrase, average, right? So when you have the more elitist Nigerians, now where you look at, okay, lawyers can actually drive expensive cars, lawyers can go on vacations, lawyers can do big things, right? But we're not in an environment where lawyers are seen to be extremely integral to your growth as a business, extremely integral to everything you do. We only see lawyers as problem solvers. And so you get into that with that burden. Now, what if I am more of a multivitamin giver instead of a paracetamol giver? What if I can help build systems? Do I have a society that is ready to receive me? Or am I boxed into, having to dish out that Panadol? Because, again, perception. So I think that a brand begins with what you know. And for young lawyers, it's the most important element in building your brand, your knowledge base. I know that when we get deeper, we'll go into social media, we'll go into the nuances of LinkedIn and all the beautiful things that happen in that space. But it begins with your understanding of law and the space you choose to take as you build that profession. So when you already have a deep understanding of law, someone is saying my voice is shaky. Am I clear?
You're very clear. We can hear you very well.
So when you have a deep understanding of law, where you are, where you want to be, and then two things will happen. You know who to look up to. You know the examples to follow. You know the mentors to have. Then you can start thinking of creating that perception and building a brand. Now, there are certain things that are elementary. How you dress, how you speak, how you comport yourself in public, how you carry yourself, right? And I'll say this, right? Many lawyers get into the profession boxed in, feeling, oh, you've got to wear a tie, you've got to wear a suit, you've got to look in a particular way, right? And in being compelled to do that, two things happen. Oftentimes, they end up not being able to afford the quality of attire that stereotype boxed them into. And so they wear things that end up belittling them even more than accentuating the prestige. And so look at the kind of suit this guy is wearing. Look at the kind of, But I will say this, and I'll stop with this point. Zerona's mom molded my formative years as a lawyer. One of the things that she emphasized in dressing is the first most important element of the lawyer is to be neat. It's not about what you're wearing. It's about, is your hair well groomed? Are your nails properly groomed? Is your shoe polished? Is your dress properly ironed? Are your shirts tucked in? Starting point, irrespective of what you're wearing. People will first see you before they hear you speak. I learned that a long time, even in university, that they will first form an impression of you from a distance. And if you do not give them that ease, they won't even let you speak. And so from your outlook, knowledge, outlook, you are getting there. And then we'll go into the nuances of the other things, social media, the quality of work you do. I'm sure there'll be other questions, but you must first have knowledge. You must first understand your career trajectory, your journey as a lawyer. You must know what you want to do before you think of having a brand. Because your brand, I'm in tech and innovation. Yeah, yeah, right? The brand that a young lawyer would be building if they want to be like me will be different from the brand that a young lawyer would be building if they want to be like Mrs. Ali S.A.N. or if they want to be like Mr. Jamide, or if they want to be like Dr. Adetu or Oyinkan. So it all depends largely on the knowledge, on your journey, and where you want to get to and how fast you want to get there. So it's important to build a personal brand, but these nuances must be considered before you look at building the personal brand.
Thank you very much, Omari. You've given us quite a bit to think about, you know. So it's like you're saying from the outset, you kind of have to know where you want to go. You know, you have to sort of see the destination in order to craft the journey, right? And along that journey, avoid the pitfalls, you know, of you know, people perceiving you in the wrong way, and you know, flatlining your brand. Mrs. Adetu, sorry, Dr. Adetu.
Okay.
Thank you, welcome. You've coached countless professionals on career growth and executive presence, right? So from your experience, what are the common mistakes that some people have made when they're building their personal brand?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. The personal brand itself, before we even look at the mistakes, thankfully people have said bits and pieces about what it is. But generally speaking, it is the message of you, the message that, you leave in the impression, rather, that you leave in the minds of people. It is who you are, what you stand for, and probably what you bring to the table. And it inculcates a whole lot of things. Somebody is saying, what exactly is the brand? It's a combination of so many things: your skills, your experiences, your values, your message, your appearance, your online presence, your expertise, your unique traits and talents. All of that packaged together is indeed your personal brand. And somebody will say, well, why do I need a personal brand? Well, especially if you are a young upcoming lawyer and even a matured lawyer, the competition is so stiff out there for you that you need credibility. You need people to say, okay, I want to work with this lawyer because people have said good about that person. You actually want to differentiate yourself from the rest, okay? You want to stand out. And you also want to give yourself opportunities for more jobs, more business, more career opportunities, and even promotion. And you also want to be influential. When you have all that in mind, in my experience, when I've been working with executives, you're so right. They make quite a number of mistakes, especially regarding their brand. The first thing that they do is the brand message. And I started off by saying your brand is the message of you. What is it that you want to leave in the minds of people, either when they first met you or when they know you, when they continue to talk about you? People don't make their brand message clear. That's number one mistake. So you want to appeal to everybody. But it's important to narrow down and have a niche. It's important to focus on something that people can say, yes, I know this person for this area of law or for this aspect of the legal profession. This person is really good at this area. So they don't, the message is not clear, right? And so people just don't know what you're about. So you need to make your message very clear. Branding is about clear, consistent, and constant message that you're sending. What are the values that you have to offer? What exactly are you offering? What do you stand for? We don't really know. They're all over the place. The second thing is, it's about not being consistent on all platforms. So when they're at work, they're one thing, and when they're out of work, they're another. Branding means you have to be consistent across board, whether online or offline. So your tone, your style, your voice, the message that you send across, it has to be consistent. So you should be in a place where you're reinforcing your personal identity. So people make that mistake of they're one thing online, they're another thing offline. When you see them, like, are you the same person? So that's a mistake, right? Again, there is an element, and I've heard this word, we mention it quite a lot today, authenticity, a loss of authenticity. Some people are trying to imitate other people. They're trying to be someone else. And honestly, you cannot project a false image. You have to align your brand with who you are, what you stand for. You must be the authentic. You don't try to be anyone else. I feel some people also overemphasize on trying to promote themselves, especially in a profession like the legal profession. What you write, what you say, how you communicate must all stand for one thing. You cannot be promoting yourself. You have to have a blend of promoting what you do and also selling other things, selling legal advice, selling legal tips, selling things that add value to your audience, right? And insights, writings, your own view on something. Some people tend to emphasize it's all about me, me, me. Come and do. I'm your lawyer. I mean, no. We need to also know what value you bring. So that's a mistake. Don't self-promote. Blend other things that you do. Let people see certain value in you in the content that you put out there, right? Some people also forget who their audience are. Who is your audience? Who are you appealing to? So your brand doesn't align with, the audience. You're not giving them value. They don't really know what you are for. Let's know who you are really appealing to. It's a challenge. People want to be here, there, and everywhere. All right. We're talking about personal brand, but because of technology, we're not talking just about your physical appearance. We're also looking at your online appearance as well. Some people are all online. They're all about online. See me on all the online platforms, But when we see you, they're forgetting that. Honestly, first impressions go a long way. And really, the value we get when we see you in person is really powerful, even more than what we see you online. It's like a HR interview, online interview. Honestly, when we see you online, we get all the facts. When we see you in person, I always insist, let's have a physical interview. It's a different ballgame. So the mistake people make is their presence is always just online. You need to strike a balance between what people are seeing, create relationships. You need to network a lot more. A lot of my executives say they have a big problem with networking. And so if you want to make your brand visible and you want people to know what you stand for and how they can reach you and you being more approachable, we find people not being present in networking gatherings. So you don't strike relationships, you don't build relationships. How are people going to know you? So you must be out there and people must know and see you, not just online, but people should be able to say the same thing about you. Oh my gosh, I met her the other day. She was speaking at this conference, or we were in a certain meeting together. What a lovely person. Oh, what a sound person, And you have to be in a space where you make yourself more visible. Go for speaking engagements. They don't. Write certain things, they don't. And so what offer are you bringing? People just feel like if their face is out there online, it's enough. It is not enough. Your personal brand needs to have some value. Again, some people like to write, some people like to say certain things, but hey, what quality of content are you putting out there? What have we seen you do? Where have we seen your value add? What are you actually contributing out there? Your brand should be able to contribute things. People should be able to say certain things about you. All right. Two other things I want to mention here. There is this thing about people don't invest in their professional image. We just heard Omari's mentioned about, first impressions and all of that, and how he was taught growing up about the importance of, grooming, taking care of yourself, your image. Honestly speaking, before people put down money for you, what they see, and you only get one chance to make a good first impression. So impression is important. Invest in your professionalism, invest in your image. And it's not just your clothing. Your image has to do with your speech, your language, your appearance, your dress sense, the photos that you put out there. Invest in you. And it's not about breaking the bank. No, it is appearance, behaviorism, communication. that is your image. Your image is not just what you put on. And finally, I find that some people make mistakes in not investing in their personal development. So they're stagnant. And it's not about going to do a master's, it's about constant reading, constant updating yourself, being abreast with what's going on in your industry, knowing fully well what's going on out there, staying abreast of times, you know. And finally, sometimes some people do compromise ethical standards. Please, this is a major area. You know, you're in the legal profession. You cannot compromise your ethical standards. It's a big mistake, and it certainly impacts your reputation and it impacts your personal brand. So a number of things are the mistakes that I have been seeing. But if you can get all those right and do those things in the best way possible with all professionalism, your personal brand will stand out there and people will see you and people will always want to even promote you, even when you're not there.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Adetu. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned quite a bit. I'm still assimilating, you know, but one thing that really stuck with me was what you said about unique value proposition. You know, you mentioned having a unique value proposition, and our panelists have alluded to that, you know, and I'm seeing that, you know, more and more, it all comes down to who you are and what you really bring to the table, right? And Onyeka, I'd like to direct this next question to you, if you don't mind. You're in a unique position yourself, because you started out as a dynamite lawyer who segued into building this branding company where you actually help other companies and individuals to build their own brands and put them in the right way in people's minds, right? So I wanted to ask, you know, as lawyers, you know, many of us are coming out of law school, we're coming out of university, we're still learning what is what, you know, because as we know, law in school is different from law in practice, right? So, you know, at this beginning stage, how do you, you know, within yourself, identify your unique value proposition? And, you know, how do you even decide, you know? So two questions, you know, sort of there. I hope you don't mind sort of touching on both of them. So how do you identify it within yourself? And then, you know, in situations where they are not necessarily, you have maybe one or more particular skills, personal skills, how do you decide what you should put forward?
Thank you for that question. So the first one being, how do you identify your unique value proposition? And then the second being, if you have multiple skill sets, how do you decide which one to put forward? So in my work with corporate brands, we go through a process called discovery. And what we do is we sit down with our clients and we ask them a series of questions. And what we're really trying to do is pick apart what it is that makes them who they are. So there are a number of things to look at. The first being, you know, what services do you actually provide? What are you actually good at? Just bare bones, like, you know, and bring it to the legal profession. You know, what subjects were you good at? What did you actually enjoy doing? Again, back to the authenticity point, you don't want to build a brand in an area that you have no interest in, because you're just going to burn out. And it's, you know, there are going to be people that are always going to be better than you in that space. So you always want to build something based on what you're actually passionate about, what you're actually interested in. So just being honest with yourself. What am I actually interested in? What am I actually good at? Right? What subjects did I excel in? Maybe I've done my internships, I've done, you know, my externship, what area was I actually good at, right? And so then invest time building those things, right? Like, you know, I think it was Dr. Adetu that said, you know, it's very important to actually build up that skill set, right? Like you can't be out there presenting a personal brand and you haven't actually built up that skill set. So what am I good at? What do I do? The second thing we ask is the why. You know, everyone kind of has a why, and sometimes it may seem abstract to think about what your why is. But if you just ask yourself, why do I get out of bed in the morning to do this particular job besides money? So if you just ask yourself that question, if money was taken out of the question, why do I get up every day to do this particular thing or to work in this particular area of law? What is it that I enjoy about it? Is it the fact that the space is very dynamic? Is it the fact that it's a growing industry? Is it the fact that the impact that it has on people? Maybe the space is one where, you know, a lot of people don't have the support that they need, you know, and it's a growing space and there's a lot of value being built up there. Is it that I love the impact that's derived there? Why exactly do I do this in the first place? So I said the first thing was really defining what it is that you actually enjoy doing, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, writing that down, then thinking about the why. Why do I do this? Why am I a lawyer? Why am I practicing besides money, right? And if money is your only reason, maybe you have to have a deeper conversation with yourself. But why do I actually do this besides the financial aspect, the financial aspect of things? Then another thing to look at is who are you within the legal industry? So what this is you need to audit the other professionals around you in that space. And maybe this might seem a bit daunting to do when you're young and you're early on, but it can also serve as a good compass, a good guide. You know, when you understand what's already out there in the space, who's already out there, who's doing things that you admire, and who's doing things in a way where you feel, well, actually, I feel like I would do this differently. And differently might mean a different approach. Maybe you're more hands-on, maybe you're more approachable. You want to position as a more approachable legal professional. People are able to reach you. It doesn't have to feel so buttoned up. So maybe it's actually down to approach. At the end of the day, the law is the law. It's not going to change, but how you service your clients, how the unique point of view that you bring to the space, that is up to you, and nobody else can do that but you, right? So who are you within the legal profession? So you ask yourself that, and what makes you different, or how might you want to approach this particular profession or this particular industry or space in a way that's different from how other people are doing things. So you do need to audit what else is going out there in the industry. And then the last thing is just who are you doing this for? Who's your audience, right? So they may not be, if you're not a seasoned professional yet, they may not be your immediate audience or clients or people that you're already serving, but you can ask yourself, who do I desire to work for? Is it, you know, the bigger names in oil and gas? Is it, you know, the startups that are redefining the financial industry? You know, is it lifestyle brands I want to work for? I don't see people out there that are building brands around legal services for lifestyle companies, for restaurants, for, you know, people that interface with consumers on a day-to-day. So who are you actually doing this for? And if you ask yourself that, then what I find is that the USP or the unique value proposition comes into play when you find the intersection of how all these things play together. The things that you're good at, what you're passionate about, how you're different from other people in the same space, and who you're doing this for. When you're able to almost like draw a Venn diagram around those things, then you're able to identify your unique value, you know, proposition and what you bring uniquely to the table. And then to the second point about when you have multiple skill sets and you're not really sure what to lead with, going back to some of those questions might help you decide what to lead with. So if you find that, you know, you have 3 skill sets, but right now the audience or the clients that you're looking to serve are mostly interested in the first 2. I mean, there's no point in going out there into the market with something that isn't desirable or there's no demand for. So if you find that, okay, these 2 first ones, I see that there's a lot of demand for this, then maybe you lead with those. And at the end of the day, as a young lawyer, if you're young in the industry, I think the best thing to do is also to deepen your expertise, right? Explore all your skill sets, and then begin to niche down from there. You know, niche is very important, as has already been shared. You know, you can't be everything to everyone. You have to niche down your audience. And, you know, when sometimes I ask clients, you know, who are you doing this for? And they say everyone. And I'm like, no, that's not correct at all. You know, if you think about that person that, gets along with every single person. Usually they're people that don't necessarily have strong personalities. They're not usually memorable people. And I'm just saying people that are, I guess, people pleasers. They get along with literally everyone. They don't have a core group of people that can literally say, oh, this is someone that, they have a strong defining sense of, who they are. And I'm even just speaking in a very simplistic way. When you think about your friends, how you even choose your friends and people you want to hang out with, just even on a personal level, you don't want somebody that in front of this group of people, they're one way, and in front of another group of people, they're another way, and they just don't have any backbone or strong sense of self or strong personality or sense of who they are. So it's just really important to kind of decide, okay, who am I here for? Who am I authentically? And what are the things that this particular niche group of people want, and show up for them. And then that way, I think, as you explore your skills and begin to niche down, you gain expertise in those things. And then, yeah, you go from there.
Thank you so much, Ayankan. That's wonderful. So leave a mark in people's minds, never let them say that you're vanilla. Never let them, forget about you. You have to leave that mark. And I also wanted to reiterate what you said about who are you doing this for, and using that as a tool to identify what exactly you should be doing, sometimes the who and the what go with the why, right? So Ayankan, I'd like to stick with you for a moment. Social media is a powerful tool for branding. And I was wondering if you could just give us a bit of advice on what tools are, or what platforms rather would you recommend as most effective for lawyers?
Okay, yeah, very quickly. So going off what I had shared before about who are you showing up for, social media is basically the place that you meet your audience, right? So it's a place where you can meet those people that you're trying to show up for. So again, reverse engineering that, ask yourself, in terms of what platforms, what social media channels to be on, you actually ask yourself, the people that I'm looking to speak to, the audience, the potential clients, or the people that I'm looking to essentially connect with, where are they? What platforms do they engage with, right? And that's really what you're trying to do. So so that's, I would say, the first question, because I think people automatically default to, oh, I'm a legal professional, I'm going to show up on LinkedIn. And of course, LinkedIn is extremely important in terms of, for the most part, a legal professional, your key value proposition is your mind, your knowledge, right? And LinkedIn is the most knowledge-driven, and I would say just thought leadership based platform. So I mean, people definitely default to LinkedIn, but you can also ask yourself, okay, where actually is the rest of my audience? And can I show up in the spaces that my audience is actually in a professional and authentic way? You can engage, Twitter is also a good thought leadership space. It's great for conversation. There's a lot that goes on Twitter in terms of people having conversations about ongoing trends and things that are affecting, the industry, things that, that you can then weigh in on and bring your particular point of view to. So LinkedIn and Twitter are great thought leadership platforms. I know that because of the professional aspect of things, lawyers are afraid to show personality. They're afraid of the more personality-driven platforms like an Instagram, or even, dare I say, TikTok. And I find that if you're able to decide that, oh, actually, this is where my audience is, I am trying to target an audience that does engage on these platforms, and the audience is not as young as people think. I think that's another misconception. People do use TikTok for more than, just entertainment. People also use these platforms, even Instagram, for educational purposes as well. They come online to search for things that, a quick advice or things that they can engage with. So I would say that I find that you might also be on these platforms. You can also decide to engage in these platforms in a way that is professional and authentic to your brand, right? It doesn't have to be the dancing and the things that, people think that, might not be as professional. But yeah, you can actually approach these platforms in your own authentic way and give value on these platforms as well. But yeah, I would say LinkedIn, Twitter, great for thought leadership, and then personality-driven platforms. You can also explore those if your audience is there as well.
Thank you so much. You mentioned TikTok. I have a question there, but we'll circle back. But Dr. Adetu, earlier you mentioned networking as part of building a brand. And I wanted to ask AJ, Mr. Jemide. So can everyone hear me? Okay.
We can.
Right. So we wanted to ask you, as someone who's undoubtedly connected with industry leaders, what advice can you share about approaching such leaders on social media? Is there an etiquette to it?
Well, I think the first thing we need to agree is that branding or marketing is about building relationships. It's not about the medium, right? It's about building relationships. And if I piggyback off what Reiko said, right, about, you know, picking a medium based on what you really want to achieve, right? So, you know, the essence of networking is to build relationships. And that's where your wealth is really, right? Your relationships are more enduring than your money in the bank. And what's most important is that it's your relationships that help you build your money in the bank. So if you think you have your money in the bank that's earning you interest, and then you want to burn all your bridges, and you don't want to build new relationships, it's just a matter of time, right? And relationships go beyond your bottom line in terms of your income. Many times, what you achieve for clients is just based on a phone call you can make, right? And it's not because you have money to spend, but because you have a relationship with someone. And a relationship with a regulator, for example, is you can't place a value to that if you have a problem at the Corporate Affairs Commission, you can call the RG, right? So I'm just pushing this envelope about relationships because people tend to think that, oh, I'm on social media and it's about you. It's not about you. You're not there. You're not there for yourself. You're not there. Yes, you're accentuating yourself, but at the end of the day, the real reason why you're there is to build relationships. So back to your question, whether you're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or you're doing a face-to-face approach, right? The real reason you're doing all this is to build relationships. And one thing people miss out is don't build relationships based on what you want or based on what you can get. Start your relationships based on what you can give. And you'll be surprised. That's the best way to build relationships. And I'll tell you a small story. A couple of years ago, when I wanted to position myself as an can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, Serena? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So a couple of years ago, and they had just passed the law that set up the ICRC, which is the infrastructure regulator. And there was a gentleman there called Mansour Ahmed, who had just been made the DG, and I didn't know this guy. But I thought to myself, how are you going to play in this space if the regulator doesn't know you and you don't know the regulator? So I fished around, I got his CV, online. I found out that he worked somewhere in the Port Harcourt refinery, and I knew someone else who had worked in the Port Harcourt refinery. So I called the guy who I knew, and I said, look, I want to meet this guy. And he says, oh, that's not a problem. Well, actually good friends. I'm going to meet him in the mosque this Friday. Just remind me on Friday morning. And I reminded him on Friday morning. And by Friday afternoon, he says, tell me when you're coming to Abuja, he'll be happy to meet you. long and short, I flew into Abuja, I met him. We met at the Hilton. So let's meet at the Hilton. We sat down in the coffee shop. And I said to him, I play in this space, and I see you've just been made the DG, the ICRC, and I would like to add value to you. So if there's any way at all that you think, I can, help you, in this your transition, please, here's my phone number. We exchange numbers. Now the story doesn't end there. After 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I had to look for another way to stoke the relationship. So I opened the newspapers one day and I saw, I don't know whether it's newspaper, but I thought somewhere that he's been going around giving talks. Once you become a DG, every day you're giving one presentation somewhere. So I sent him a message and I said, who helps you do your slides? Because I know that you've just started. You probably don't have an essay right now. And he says, look, it's tough. And I said, next time you're going to speak, I'll be happy to help you do your slides. And he says, I'm going to take you up on that. I said, okay. And you won't believe it. A few weeks later, I sent me a message. He says, I'm going to Kano to talk about so and so and so. This is the audience. Can you do slides for me? And I did slides for him. And he went, did his speech. He came back and he said to me, wow, that was very good. The next time, he said, look, I'm going to Cross River State to do a talk. The governor will be there, these people will be there. So can you help me do slides on so and so and so? And the next thing I saw in the message is, do slides for yourself on so and so and so, you'll speak after me. And that was it. I flew into Tinapa, we did the presentations, I did my slides. And a couple of months later, the World Bank was looking for somebody to help them do some consulting around PPPs in Nigeria. And I just said to them, no, you don't need to search. I know just the right guy. And he called me and he says, when can you come? Anyway, long and short was, he hooked me up with the World Bank. I ended up working with them as a consultant over a couple of months. So, what am I saying? If I had gone there and said, well, I'm a lawyer, whenever you get an opportunity, make sure you use me,
Done.
I'll stop there.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, sir. That's quite interesting. A lot of us don't think about, our, I'll call them ancillary skills, and how they can play a huge part in helping us to build these very, very important relationships. I think my dad actually said once to me that being a lawyer isn't so much about what you know, but about being able to get the information, and being, so as you said, just being able to provide that value, in whatever way. So notes for all of us here, just take stock of all the skills that you might have that you are not necessarily bringing to the forefront right now, or you feel like you're not using them for your legal career. Just take note of them, because perhaps they may come in very, very handy in building these very invaluable relationships. Thank you very much, sir. So Dr. Adetu, staying on this, I had a thought, in building relationships, we also have to be cognizant of keeping that line, that boundary, between professionalism, and we have to always, as lawyers, think about ethics, right? And in the context of building a personal brand, how do we do that? How do we stay confidently build this brand? As Oyinkan said, some people may like it, some people might not, but how do you stay, sure-footed in that confidence, but still uphold your professionalism?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Zoe, for that. It's so important to boost and build your confidence. You can't buy confidence. And you literally have to live through it, build it over the years. And confidence is a major factor if you were trying to build a very good personal brand. Okay, because as a lawyer, like I said before, it's really about you projecting your professional expertise, right? And making sure that clients are seeing that what you do, what you say you do is great. Boosting your confidence is important. For me, I think it's so important that confidence is not easy. And even if you feel you're confident, there will be times when you have butterflies in your stomach. I talk a lot, so I could be talking to 50 people today, I have no problem. 500 people, I have no problem. By the time you start telling me to speak to 5,000 people, or physically, of course, I need to build that confidence. It's not just going to come like that, because I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job. It's so important to continue to build your knowledge base. When you go to a client to pitch, for instance, when you know your onions and you're fully on top of what you're saying, confidence comes naturally. So you develop your confidence by ensuring that you continue to develop your knowledge base. I think Oyinkan mentioned knowledge base there. So important. Keep boosting. Don't go out there unprepared. Go out there fully prepared. Make sure that whenever you're going out, you're fully prepared so that you don't contradict your personal brand. Having said all of that, it's so important for you to take baby steps. You cannot want to be like your role model, I would say. You cannot want to be like somebody that you know is really good, who's been doing what you want to do for years, and it's going to come naturally. Take baby steps and grow gradually. That's how you build your confidence. You can say, well, I have 10 years experience, because you started gradually and you are building that, growing and growing and growing, and that boosts your confidence. I would say always stop and look at your strengths. What are your strengths? What do you bring to the table? Do this by doing it. Do yourself a favor. Do a SWOT analysis, a personal SWOT analysis. Do what I say, identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses, identify areas where there are opportunities for you to change, identify areas that could be a stumbling block or an obstacle, so that you try and turn that into an added value. And by doing that as well, in building your brand as a lawyer, have a personal development plan. See, listen, this is the year 2024, it's rounding up. The year 2025 is coming. Have a personal development plan in terms of writing down your goals. You are now, this is how you are today. Next year, you want to look better. You want to look more presentable. You want to look more authentic, as we keep on saying it. All right. You need to also make sure that you practice effective communication. When it comes to personal brand, we can't be saying, come again. Come again. What did you say? Your communication must be clear. It must be concise. It must be confidently projected. So when you're talking as a lawyer, lawyers can't be doing but no. You need to be able to make sure that you are effectively communicating, all right? Work again on your personal appearance. I said, if your personal appearance is something that you know, I'm not yet satisfied with where I am on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you? And you find yourself well below 2.5. You find yourself on a scale of below 5, it is an opportunity for you to begin to work on your appearance. Honestly, to be honest, when you are wearing something that you're comfortable with, when you're wearing something with that you yourself looked in the mirror and said, hey, I think I look good. When you've gotten 1 or 2 compliments about how you look, that just boosts your confidence. As a lawyer, you're trying to be authentic out there, but confident as well. And then again, I would also say, I don't know if lawyers do this much, but I always say to people, seek a mentor, seek a coach. A mentor is someone that will always help you, in boosting your confidence. You have a role model, you see what they do, you see how they do it, and you really admire and you're inspired by how they do it. Reach out to people that can be your mentor. It's a fantastic. We didn't have much of that when we were growing up or when we were coming out of university, but nowadays, it's about politely speaking to someone, approaching someone to be your mentor, to be your coach. They will actually identify your blind spots for you, right? And they will help you boost your confidence by doing that as well. Your mindset, please, has to be positive. We all know that things are not great nowadays. It's a global problem. It's a global phenomenon. Things are not going so well, but you have to be optimistic. It's about having an optimistic, confident mind. Your mindset must be optimistic, must be confident. And then you can do this also by having every morning doing affirmation statements. I'm great. I'm good at what I do. I'm going to be successful today. I'm going to have affirmation statements that you say on a regular basis in the mornings. That will help you boost your confidence. Again, I must say, I can't but emphasize the importance of networking. When you network, you learn more from other people. You know what's going on in your industry. You are more exposed to people's experiences, to sharing of your own knowledge, sharing of your own journey. And you go there, you get more, even job opportunities. When you network, of course, we just heard Mr. Jimmy saying how that little exercise of networking got him jobs that he never even thought. Networking will open up opportunities for you. When it does that, you come out more confident, all right? So again, it's with everybody, and it is with lawyers, the imposter syndrome, managers. Yeah, some people feel like they're not who they really are. Some people feel like they're imposters, like, nah, I don't really feel the way people think I am. Hey, recognize your qualification. We all know that it's very difficult to become a lawyer. You went through so much to be a lawyer. I did business law when I was becoming a chartered accountant, and I had to read cases like, that was enough for me. I can't even imagine you lawyers reading all those cases. Recognize and appreciate that you got this degree. Recognize your qualification. Recognize your achievements. Recognize your learning journey. This will boost your confidence. And be you, be the authentic you. This is what I went through to get this. Don't settle for less. And please don't compare yourself to anyone else. If you compare yourself, you're going to kill your confidence. You will kill your confidence. Ride your own strut, as I say, strut your own trot, right? Be on your lane, stay on your own lane, right? Stay on your own lane. And finally, I will say, celebrate your success. When it comes to confidence, you will have little, every little thing is an attitude of gratitude. It requires some level of gratification. Celebrate your own successes. This will boost your confidence. It's not about people saying that you're trying to be what you're not. It's not like people saying you're trying to be a wannabe. It's about remaining professional. Professionalism is a key thing, and confidence will help you get there. Thank you.
Sharon, if you don't mind, I would like to just top up on something Dr. Janet said.
Yes, please, sir. Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think it's important to realize that nobody was born confident. I think we grow into confidence. And
you build it.
Yes. And one of the things I found out over time, and people don't realize this, but when I tell people this, they never believe it. There was a time when I would go for conferences or seminars or crowds, and I'll just sit behind and not say hello to anybody until somebody spoke to me. And if nobody spoke to me the whole day, I'd go home. And, I used to think to myself that I was just being cool and, I was posing. And one day I looked at myself in the mirror and I said to myself, you're actually afraid to engage, and you must admit it. And I then started thinking, how do I get out of this? And I then did something for myself, which I called the card challenge. Each time I went out, and that's where Dr. Detu was talking about baby steps. Each time I went out, I go out with my cards, my complimentary cards, and I said, Ayuli, you're not going to leave this place until you give at least 20 people your complimentary cards. And you can't just go and drop your cards into people's pockets. You must make a conversation to a point where they'll ask for your card or you can offer your card, right? And of course, when I said 20, maybe the first time I did 5 and the next time I did 10. But the more I did that, after a while, the numbers didn't matter, because, after a while you could do 1,000 once you've crossed those Rubicons where you're no longer afraid to engage. And the last thing I would say is the greatest confidence boost that you can have is validation. As you begin to engage, it's people who would say to you, you know what, you're so intelligent. oh, that was so instructive. Oh man, I never thought about it like that. And then you go home thinking, well, I actually have something to bring to the table. But you never realize that until you try to engage, right? Again, don't engage about you, engage about them. That's the best way to build relationships. I'll stop there.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
Well, so don't engage about you, engage about them. So it's always about the people that you're projecting yourself to.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, sir.
So I would engage you first by paying you a compliment. I would engage you if you're someone that I've always wanted to meet. I would actually come to you and say, wow, I've always wanted to meet you. And I will tell you why I wanted to meet you, but not that I wanted to meet you because I need something from you, but I wanted to meet you. I would tell you I wanted to meet you because I liked what you wrote on LinkedIn. I liked this, I liked that. And you find out that those are the people that go through the door. The people who say, well, when can I come to your office? I need this, I need that. The man is even afraid to give you his phone number.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that reminds me actually of a book I read once, and it was talking about, the book was on networking actually, and how to to boost your confidence and boost how you are perceived by the people that you are meeting. And one tip that it gave was when you see someone, even if you haven't met them for the first time, there's a way that you can smile that that gives them the impression that, oh my goodness, this person is so happy to see me, and what you've said just now reminded me of that. So, let's all remember, to first and foremost, when we're meeting new people, and even when we're re-engaging with old associates or new people, to throw it back to build others up before you start on yourself. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Dr. Aditu, thank you very much for that wonderful boost of our self-esteem. I think if we can just take a moment to give ourselves a collective pat on the back for making it through law school, for making it this far in our careers.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ma. So, Dr. Aditu, you mentioned that we should practice effective communication. And I want us to segue, if you will, to content creation for lawyers, because we're talking about establishing our brands, our online brands, or on our online presence, rather, I should say. And we've already mentioned TikTok, we've mentioned LinkedIn, various other social media, and Amori, content is king in the digital world, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how lawyers can leverage trending topics or viral moments to positively enhance their online presence.
Right. Before we talk about that, it would be good to, I like to work with data. So what does the data say, right? 78% of consumers make their purchase decisions based on social media. And that includes those who consume professional services like legal services, 78% of consumers. Now, let's even piggyback. 4.9 billion people, 60%, over 60% of the world's population use social media, right? And if they now tell you that 78% of people who purchase things that use this platform make those decisions based on things and people they see on this platform, what that tells you is that in the digital world, social media is the place to go. And when you talk about Web3 and the likes, you know that we're even getting into higher dimensions of the utilization of social media. It will now become a place where you have virtual reality experiences. You go to, you actually enter. But, back to the issue, right? And then in employment, 71% of employers employ based on profiles they see on social media. Right? LinkedIn, for instance, right? So 71% of recruiters make those decisions based on profiles that they receive on LinkedIn. So the first thing you do is when you see a resume, you go straight to LinkedIn to confirm, that balance. But then there's also a caveat. 85% of terminations have been as a result of disappointments, where there's a divergence between what I ordered versus what I got, right? But this just tells you how important the digital space is. Lawyers will tell you that 35% of lawyers who actively use social media have built their client bases from the social media space, right? And yours truly, for instance, has built an enormous client base from the social media space. But that said, right, I said that in my opening statement, and I'm going to reiterate it again, is that your brand starts with your knowledge, what you know, right? We're in an era of large language models, so it's very easy for people to speak intelligently or to type intelligently. You just need to key in something into ChatGPT, and then it generates something, or Gemini or stuff. But there's something that shows when there's a consistent, intentional deployment of knowledge, especially from an experiential point of view. And so as lawyers, one of the things you must do is continue to hone your knowledge. First of all, understand your niche, carve a niche for yourself. And as young lawyers, it's a bit difficult, especially coming from law school and the kind of legal education we have in this part of the world. It's quite difficult for you to really decide what your niche is. But I think that in resolving that, you've got internships even while you're in school. And when you leave out, be very intentional about where you work first. Listen, your first place of employment determines a large chunk of your professional journey. The first experience you get, if it's a disciplined organization, if it's a structured organization, you find that you will just continue to go in that trajectory, and it will build your mindset, right? And so that's very important in determining the niche you want to go into. So when you get into that niche, you build personal capacity. Many lawyers today, right, who have become experts in their field were self-taught. A lot of these things were not from law school, were not even from elementary education, where a lot of them were experiential and self-taught, and then advanced, courses and trainings to build that capacity. Now, once you have that knowledge, one beautiful thing about social media, especially Instagram, are the algorithms, right? So when you utilize social media intentionally, it skews you towards the narrative that you want to be taken to. And that starts from you understanding your identity, right? So I want to be a startup attorney. I'm dealing with startup founders, entrepreneurs, technology-driven tech players and innovators, right? And you position yourself in that space. Now, what social media will do for you is to narrow the algorithm to that line. And so you continue to see posts, you continue to see messages, you continue to see a lot of activity around that space. Now, as a young lawyer who's building a brand, you must begin to follow those pages and then comment, make important suggestions, contributions, make your view known. But you see, there's a caveat there, right? People who have built a career, who have become successful, who you want ultimately to notice you, can see very, very clearly through you. And so you must be very careful not to appear intelligent, but to be intelligent. And now there are two different. Appearing intelligent is you just, talking, right? Being intelligent is understanding the limits of the level of contribution you can make, the quality of the contribution, and most importantly, being able to apply experiential knowledge to it. Anybody can type it. Anybody can type in the comment section, right? But there's something there's a comment I would make, right, on Mr. Jemide's post, and he'll go right back and look at my profile and say, no, this guy hasn't gotten to that stage, right? Because I'm not sure he will understand. And the same thing for younger lawyers, right? It's important that we understand the limits. While we're trying to push, we must be very wary of appearing intelligent. We must be intelligent, right? So understand, have that knowledge, and then you speak to those issues based on your growth pattern. You have got to crawl, before you walk, before you can run. If you start running, it's an anomaly, right? So you've got to build through it. And even things as simple as your bios, right? So if you're not an expert until you have spent at least 10,000 hours doing a particular thing and doing it over and over and over again, right? So be very wary of calling yourself an expert if you have not given the knowledge, if you have not done a lot of experiential work. Now, I'm going to use an example, the ecosystem where I play, right? A lot of it is just evolving. And so expertise is based on experiential understanding of where you are. It's very easy for you to say, oh, I can register. If you follow this process, you can register a company and then you could get your certificate, it's downloaded and all, right? That's theory. And that's what the CAC have put up in their guidelines. But there are also nitty-gritties around the process. Troubleshooting, the back end. Can you place a call to fix a knotty issue, right? Do you understand the nuances of the implementation of those policies? Do you understand how it actually works? How many have you actually done, right? In drafting technical agreements. A lot of these agreements are never drafted before. So they are not agreements where you supposedly have templates, so to speak, right? You cannot speak to those issues if you have not actually drafted those contracts, if you have not actually seen to their application and implementation. But there's something you can do. You could continue to follow people who you perceive are in that line. Watch what they do, watch what they post, make comments, send messages to them, asking intelligent questions, but not going beyond the boundaries, right? Now, you also look very closely at perception. Dr. Adetu had spoken to it, right? You must stay in one place. You must stay in one place, right? Be the same person on LinkedIn as you are on Instagram, as you are on Twitter, as you are on TikTok. I haven't been able to hack TikTok, right? But there must be a synergy of your personality. So what we have is oftentimes there's that divergence. And so even the algorithms, social media algorithms are not even able to help you, because today you're dancing on the beach. Tomorrow you're giving a technical talk. Next tomorrow and so you're even confusing people. I say to young lawyers, your first website is your social media page. That's your first website. Once you say so, the first thing people do is they do a Google check on you. They want to know who you are. They want to know how you think, right? And then commenting. Zarina, you mentioned viral trends, right? Be very wary of comment and always come from a place of giving clarity. Now, we see a lot of sensational issues happen, and then we just, people want to chip in. You must give simplistic, very basic comments, but that give clarity and get people to know better. Now, what happens is, let's say, for instance, on a Linda IKG blog, there's a post regarding something that has a legal implication or legal connotation. And even the post in itself may not be clearly crafting it as it should. If you understand it, do your research well, and in a paragraph or two, clarify the issue without appearing condescending, without insulting, without being rude, just from a place of wanting to give clarity. Two things will happen. Reasonable people will navigate to your page. They want to know who this person is. Some people want to ask you further questions. Some people want to know a lot more. And then be also very careful where you comment, right? So you can't be giving, you can't be building thought leadership. And in the same place, be on some pages and using certain slangs and certain phrases. The internet never forgets. So everything, technology has taken us to a place where I just need a particular software to find out every comment you have made on Instagram. Your digital footprints are very clear for those who want to see it. And so you must be careful. The things you align with, the pages you follow, the things that you align with, are they in tandem with the vision board you're creating for yourself? And I'm going to stop on this point. Do you have a vision board? What's your vision board in building a brand? Where do I want to be in the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years? Now, you must be very clear as to where you want to be. And your vision board helps you achieve that. It determines who you interact with. It determines who you speak with. It determines who you follow. And it determines even the people who you seek to be mentored by. And even when you decide to choose who a mentor is, oftentimes one thing many young lawyers do is that they approach mentorship from a place of benefit. And Mr. Jamide has spoken to it, right? But just to give a bit more context, even the mentors, right, need help. And oftentimes they interface a lot with people who are taking. Once you're able to be a person of value, 2 things happen. They will cultivate the relationship with you. It won't even be you. They'll cultivate the relationship with you. And then if you're privileged to have them exchange contact with you, be very careful about your communication with them. Be very careful about the statuses you post. You must, so you see, the world, social media is encroaching into our deepest spaces. WhatsApp used to be a bit distant from the main social media highway streets. That's changing. In fact, my friends were saying to me yesterday that there's now an Instagramification of WhatsApp. Now, what that means is it's getting closer. You've got to be very wary of the things you put up, the cruise that you're catching, the fun things you're doing, and even the opinions you exude. They must be such that don't offend the sensibilities of people who mentor you, people who follow you, and people who look up to you. Because even a lawyer who is called to bar today has someone behind him who is seeking to be like him.
Thank you so much, Amori. That was quite insightful, and I think we have a lot that we can get from that. We have quite a few questions from the audience.
If you don't mind, and just permit me. Can you hear me, Sarana?
Yes, sir.
Please, I'd like to just pick up 1 or 2 things that Amori has said, if you don't mind. Just 2 minutes.
All right, sir.
Okay. The first thing he talked about mentorship and how you should come to that relationship given. I have a mentor actually. It's someone all of you know. He's been my mentor for 20 years. Also a lawyer, more successful than me. That's why I picked him to be my mentor. But every time I engage him to have conversations with him, I offer to take him out, and I say to him, I'm younger than you. I'm sure there are many places. I always take him somewhere he's never been. And he appreciates it. So anytime he sees a message from me, what are you doing this Friday? He jumps at it if he's not doing anything. He knows I'm going to take him somewhere. And he said, how did you find this place? I say, I'll joke with him. I say, I've become a Lagos boy, right? But so I think it just makes that point. But the other point I want to make, Amori, is I think you mentioned about being consistent on your social media handles. I think there's a flip side to that. If you find me on Instagram, I'm a different person than on my LinkedIn, because I think Instagram is more social. And some of the things that are posted on Instagram, one of my greatest posts was me kayaking during COVID at the back of VGC waters, right? So again, people like you for your mystery. So whilst we are trying to be lawyers, we should also be ourselves. If you are someone who goes kayaking, post it, but you may not want to post it on LinkedIn, but use your Instagram. I'll stop there for now.
Well, I
Thank you, sir.
perfectly agree with Mr. Jemide, and right, we must humanize ourselves. So if you also go to my page, there's a balance, right? People must also know that you're human, you've got a family. They want to, so let me also say this, right? The decision to engage you, right, or the decision to deal with you, the decision to make you a partner, a client, a professional service provider, or whatever, is also dependent beyond your knowledge, but also about the person. And so you must find ways to humanize yourself and let them see that human aspect to you. But what I meant was, you know, in one place you're a lawyer, in another place you're selling houses, in another place you're selling products. There's no clarity as to who you are or where you stand, right? And even in being human, even in humanizing yourself, things as simple as your name, your social media names must be very clear, right? So you can't be wanting to be a professional building a space, and then, for instance, your Instagram username is Bombo Clark Guy, or that bad good bad boy, you know, some funny stuff, right? It creates a bit of a divergence. You must be clear what message you want to sell it intently, sell it neatly, and people will buy it.
Understood.
Thank you very much, Amori. So, sorry, Mrs. Ali?
Yes, we're running late. The session's supposed to end in another 4 minutes. We're stickler for time at SLP, so I need to ask the house if you want the panelists to ask some questions. Can you give us 10, 15 minutes just for that? Or should we just round up now? Because we have just 10 more minutes. I mean, 4 more minutes now. So I think that there's some response saying that they're glad for you to please go on for another few minutes. So you can go ahead and ask the questions.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. So we have I have a question here from Talia Adeola Akinsola. How do you reconcile branding with sincerity in the corrupt society and legal practitioners' rules against advertising? My goodness. I think we all have that question. And it was one of the big juggernauts that hit me when, when starting out my legal career, that we are actually prohibited from advertising. Mr. Jemide, I'd like to throw this question to you. How do we navigate this?
What's advertising, Zara? And this word advertising has, different connotations as the years have gone by, right? Many years ago, if someone says you're looking gay, it was a compliment. But now you can't use that word anywhere, right? So advertising has changed, right? I don't think that having a social media handle and posting things is advertising. You're not putting a signboard there that says, I'm so and so, come and use me. But you're putting out information that shows that, you have intellect, and people make up their minds. So I think the only way you would say someone is advertising is if he puts a big signboard and actually advertises his services. But then again, it's convoluted, because we all have websites these days, that say on the homepage what we do. And I think the last thing I would say is, if everybody is criminal, then there are no criminals. Because this thing we're talking about, we should all shut down our websites if we want to really comply. So I think we should just get on with our lives.
Just piggybacking from what Mr. Jemide said, is that I think that we should also know that the rules of professional conduct have been amended. And the amendment allows for advertising. What the rules do not allow for is soliciting. They're two different things. So you're allowed to advertise, but you're not allowed to solicit, right? So let's take time to read, I think, section 39 of the rules of professional conduct, right? It says a lawyer may engage in any advertising or promotion in connection with his practice of law, provided that it is fair and proper in the circumstances, complies with the provisions of these rules. Now, here's what a lawyer cannot do. You cannot engage or be involved in any advertising or promotion of the practice of law which is inaccurate or likely to mislead, likely to diminish public confidence in the legal profession or administration of justice, makes comparison with or criticizes other lawyers, includes any statements about the quality of the lawyer's work or the size of success of his practice, right? And it goes on and on. And I think that it is even in what we cannot do that we find a lot of lawyers falling into that trap. And that's one thing that young lawyers must learn. This urge to quickly tweet about that thing that happened in court, that thing that client did, right? You find that I find it very, very disconcerting. Mr. Jemide has over 4 decades of practice. I doubt that you would see him in any post make a story about a client's dilemma, right? So you find people, even while discussing with the clients, are already tweeting, right? You find people disparaging the court. Oh, this judge is very lazy. Oh, this court is very hot. Oh, this place is very, and all that. And then we complain that the rules don't even allow you to advertise. Meanwhile, the rule allows you to advertise, but not solicit.
Thank you. We have a question here actually that asks from Jennifer Matthew Arrow. She asked, what would you term soliciting for briefs in line with the RPC? So while we're on this subject, if you would please just provide that clarity.
Yeah, so soliciting is what it is. Let people come to you, right, as against you going to them. So let's imagine, and we see a lot of that happen on social media. Maybe someone is complaining about something, some injustice that's been done or something, and then you see people, lawyers springing up and saying, "Oh, I'll defend you. I can do this." And if it's not pro bono and from a place of trying to achieve justice, but if it's from a place of engaging as a client, that's ambulance chasing, right? And that's what the law frowns at. The essence of the profession, and to keep it dignified, is that the clients should come to you. The client should see your understanding of their dilemma, your understanding of law and its application to solving their problems, and then want to come to you for professional advice and support, as against you going to say, look, based on what you're going through, I am the only one that can do this for you. I am the best lawyer in that space and all that, right? So it's just creating the balance. And even in advertising, right? The kind of advertisement that is expected is not as is known in, generically, but one that comes from a place of your superior understanding of law and its application and your ability to pass it across and make people more informed. In doing that, they will navigate to you when they now have specific problems, right? So you're giving out information from a place of knowledge, from a place of experience, and then people now have specific questions or issues now crop up. They come to you to ask those questions, you address those questions, you give them clarity, they're happy to engage.
All right. Thank you very much, Amori. I'm finding that, you're not just giving us the theory of it, but you're also giving us the practical application. I really appreciate that. Thank you. We have another question here from Mojisola K. Emmanuel. And Oyinka, I'd love for you to please take this. She asked, how does posting of articles help our legal practice, and where do we post such?
Okay, that's a great question. So posting articles is right in line with what's called like thought leadership. And it's part of one of the tools you have to build your personal brand online. So if you work it backwards, again, we spoke about how in the legal profession, a great asset that you have is your mind and your expertise. How do you showcase your mind? How do you showcase your expertise? Articles are a great avenue to do that, to really position yourself as a thought leader, somebody that has understanding or an interesting point of view about topics that are actually affecting people. On a more technical standpoint, articles are actually a great way to boost your search engine optimization. And really what that means is what comes up when people Google you. If people Google your name, or if people Google the industry that you are wanting to play in. So let's say startups are having particular legal questions. Oh, I need advice for a term sheet, term sheet law, Nigeria. That's what they're Googling, right? Those keywords. If you have been consistently putting content through, written content online, then what Google will feed this person would be, eventually links to some of the content that you've put out there. So Google likes people to have a good experience. And so they want, if you're consistent and you put out good quality content that gets engaged with, then that boosts, where that content is going to show up on literally when people Google that particular type of content. And so your name comes up in association with the kinds of topics and things that you've been putting content about online. So articles are really, really important because they boost your online profile. They position you as a thought leader. And then just going back to what everybody's been saying, like, it's not just, oh, let me just write something to sound intelligent. It's also a practice in you developing your own knowledge base. It's a practice in you developing your expertise. You're not just asking ChatGPT to write an article for you. Please don't do that. Like, actually understand the space that you're operating in, understand what's out there, have your own unique point of view, have your own unique angle that you're bringing to the table. It's just imagine, these platforms as like an online conversation. You're in a living room, you're in a hall, everybody's having these conversations, right? So what are you adding to the conversation? And so that's how articles are great. There are places that you can put long form articles such as Medium, Substack. If you don't have your own like website, for example, you can actually post your articles on platforms like that are perfect for more long form content. I know people also post directly onto LinkedIn. There are ways that you can actually post long form content onto LinkedIn as well. So I think those are some great avenues to put out long form content, to put out articles. I mean, in addition to the more traditional mediums that legal professionals have, available. So if you have an article that then gets published in a more traditional medium, maybe in a newspaper or something, then that can be linked on your social media profiles and people can always link back to it. But all of this is great because it boosts your search engine optimization. People are hearing about you in relation to the thing that you want to be known for all over the internet, in all these different spaces. So that's how I would answer that question. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Marifa. We have another question from Peace James. She asks, is it possible for a lawyer to build a brand that's a perfect blend of two passions, like compliance and debt recovery? What strategies can they use to successfully merge these areas without losing focus? And I know we'd mentioned earlier that, we should focus, we should have something that we're known for, and have a niche. But what if we have more than one niche? Is that possible? Can we, how do you do that effectively? Dr. Adetu, can you tell us something about this?
Absolutely. See, passion comes from different areas. We always say that the best way to really put yourself out there is to follow your passion. Many people feel like if you, before money comes, like, put your passion out there. Can you have two areas where you can focus on? Absolutely. Just look at those areas. I've forgotten to mention the areas that she mentioned in the area of law. They both seem like they're in the legal profession, right? It still tells us that you are a lawyer. It doesn't in any way dilute your brand. You may have different specialty areas, but if you're narrowing down to those two, yes, let people know that this is what you are good at. We just spoke about thought leadership. You might now decide to use your social media platforms to speak about different areas. Today you're speaking about one area, tomorrow you're giving us advice on another area. You're writing some things, sharing your insights, all right? Writing articles, maybe you can volunteer to be on a panel like this. You know, just let people know that this is your area of interest, and you have to go all out there to really make sure that you master those areas, if indeed those are the areas that you are very passionate about. Can you have them as your, that so your passion is not your personal brand. Your personal brand is telling us what you have expertise in. If those are the two areas, please go out there and let us know. Put yourself out there and let us know that this is what you are good at. Write the articles, share your insights, put some tips out there for us. Let us know that this is an area that you are an expert in. See, I have very areas. I wear different caps. Okay. It doesn't take away from my brand. So whether you are as an executive coach, as a trainer, a facilitator, a chartered accountant, I have different areas, but my brand still stands strong. So just make sure you focus on your brand. Indeed, if we're just telling you don't have multiple niches, right? And then there was a difference that Mr. Omori said, are you selling this? Are you a lawyer today, entrepreneur tomorrow? What? It is about focusing on the one that you really want people to know. It doesn't stop you from being an entrepreneur, but let us know, if you're telling us your visibility, what you are good at, the area where you are specialty at. Let that be your focus, okay? Of course, you can do other things, but let the one that you want us to know you for to be very clear, very concise, and very consistent. Okay, that is important. Of course, we heard people say, yeah, we have a life. Of course, you have another life after work. In fact, work-life balance, work-life integration, even more, is now the order of the day, how you are infusing those two. So it's just about being consistent about what you want to leave in the minds of people that meet you. What is your message? And if it is work, let it be consistent to work. If it is outside work, then don't mix, how they say, don't mix work with pleasure, all right? But of course you can, and I don't think in any way it confuses anyone, except for the fact that let your message be clear to us all.
Thank you very much, Ma. So we have to make sure that our message is clear to everyone. We have to ensure that, well, not close ourselves in. We can,
Zerna, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Apologies for that. Dr. Adetu, thank you very much once again for that. Well, remember that we can do more than one thing. We don't need to be bound to any singular specialty, but we do need to be cognizant of what we want people to think of when they hear our name or they see our face. So thank you very much, Ma. So we'll take
just to add to that, as a young lawyer, if you have 2-3 areas that you're very passionate about, I think you should take a bit of time to study and zero in on one. But then if you want to go like she's talking about compliance and debt recovery, then it's better you position an entity that is warehousing this too, as against that. And I'll tell you from personal experience, in my formative years, I was following a particular lawyer, and I found her insights very interesting, and I kept following her. And then one day I just went to look at her page, and she was now selling houses. She was in something else, but she had moved. She was now a real estate lawyer. And this is someone who was in corporate commercial and was giving a lot of insights, and I felt a bit orphaned by that, right? Because I wasn't looking at real estate. So what that tells you is that people are also looking at you people are following you, and you have to be careful how you switch and how you pass across.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That must have hit home really hard, you know, feeling orphaned that she went to a different area. Sorry about that. So we'll take one last question from Hassan. What is your opinion over media comments by lawyers on matters that are sub judice or ongoing cases before courts? Now, I'll leave this open to our panel. Actually, if I may, our chairperson of the MBA section on legal practice, our learned silk, Mrs. Boma Alabi, OON-SAN, is here with us. Ma, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. I'd like to ask you this question, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the kind welcome. I couldn't respond earlier to the host permitted me to speak.
Thank you. So, Al Hassan asked a question on what is your opinion over media comments by lawyers on matters that are sub judice or ongoing questions before the courts, and I'd love to hear your insights on this, please.
Is the question directed at me or to me rather?
It was directed to the panel.
Oh, to the panel. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
In which case, let them go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, Oyinkan, what's your opinion on this? Should we speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just thinking about it in the context of social media and things that are trending, I believe that, you know, some comment was shared earlier just about how to engage appropriately. I think that that's really what's most important. So what's the appropriate way, judging by your skill set, your expertise, where you're at in your career, your proximity to the case, what is the appropriate way to comment on this or to add to the conversation that's ongoing? So I think that would, you know, it would really depend based on who is speaking and what platform is being used as well. But really, what is the appropriate way to add to this conversation? Are you well placed to, you know, speak on it with, you know, authority? Are you asking questions? Are you offering just a unique perspective, commentary, something that can add and benefit the profession or, you know, the conversation that's going on around the case, maybe clarify things for people that might be confused about this and you know, on the ongoing matter. So I think the most appropriate thing is, you know, the most important thing is what is appropriate. You know, obviously you're not wanting to, if you are especially tied to that case, because I'm not sure if that's the angle this question is coming from. You know, if it's something that you're tied to, a matter that you can't speak about in terms of professional ethics, then of course don't speak about it. But if it's something that is, you know, it's more about what are you adding to the conversation, you know, and why, you know, are you just speaking on it because it's trending, or is this something that, you know, is within the personal brand you're trying to build, tying it back to the conversation, you know, something that you're interested in, you have a genuine point of view about, and you're speaking on it, not trying to posture as something you're not, but just adding positively to the conversation. And I would say that it's appropriate.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so may I just add to that? Thank you very much, first of all. Just a quick one. I mean, sub judice basically means that the matter is still ongoing in court. And we must be aware that the rules of professional conduct is very clear on that. It actually deters us from making, because that's basically like your making comments that it's like your trial. The matter is still on. You don't want anything to prejudice the courts and the judges. So it's actually against the rules of professional conduct. We must be careful and uphold the principles of our law, which actually deters us from making comments that could affect the trial. And basically, it's like you become and putting the judiciary under pressure. So even when you come out, it's if you have to make any remarks, it should not be about your opinion about the case. And we just need to be very careful about making comments that could prejudice the case. That's basically, I think, what we need to look at. I've forgotten the rule. I think it's either 33 or something. I think 33.
Rule 33.
I think it's Rule 33 that actually deters us from doing that. So please, I just thought I should add to the
I
conversation.
think I'm going to add, I think it should, like every structured profession, there are always rules and guidelines, ethical standards, I think is what we will call them. And I think caution is very important because, you know, your license can be taken away from you. So I think it's about following ethical standards and making sure that you don't breach them. It's a common mistake that some people make. Just because everybody's commenting, let me comment for what you say, and always follow the ethical guidelines of your profession. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and also to add, in the legal profession, not all publicity is good. You must be very wary of standing before the cameras to speak. Be very clear as to what, and especially where journalists have their freedom to couch the headlines and, you know, determine how they interpret what you say. So you have to be very careful. But like Leonard Silk has said, Rule 33 expressly prohibits you from speaking and stating in case of opinion. Just to add to what Onyeko said, it's more from giving public clarity if you have to speak. And that's if you're not even related to the case. If you're related to this case, you are not expected to even grant interviews at all. But if you're unrelated to the case, it's a sensational case, and they speak to you as a lawyer, you are only allowed to speak to the extent that you are just clarifying what the issues are, giving people a bit of an understanding of the process that is going on, and, you know, getting them to anticipate the decision of the courts. But not to state what you think is the outcome, or whether it is just or not, and whether the court is right in whatever action they choose to take. That would be clearly unprofessional.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Okay. Thank you very much. So, you know, as lawyers, we're held to a much higher standard than other professions. You know, it's important that we remember this regardless of whatever the situation may be, particularly as we go into our personal brand. And so, just by way of summing up what we've discussed today, one, remember that you swore an oath to the legal profession to uphold it. And so remember that as you craft your brand, you know, know who you are, know who you want to be, know how you want to be perceived. And that will help you as you shape the image that you're going to project to the world. Don't limit yourself. While you should know what exactly you want people to think of, don't let that stop you from going after other things that you are interested in. Understand the law, really understand the law, know what you can and you can't do within the bounds of the law. And overall, know yourself and know who you want to be. I'd like to thank all our panelists for being here today. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your insights, your experience, everything. I was struggling to write down every single word that was coming out of your mouths. It's outstanding. And I think everyone here would agree with me. We've learned so much, and I cannot thank you enough for this incredible discussion. I would like to, at this time, please turn the floor over to our Learned Silk. Our chairperson, Mrs. Boma Alabio and SAN, chairperson of the NBA section on legal practice. You're welcome once more, Ma. If you could please give us your closing remarks.
You're muted, man. You're muted.
I know, I've been trying to get unmuted. The host would not permit me. I'm glad that I have the host's permission now. I thank you very much for this opportunity to simply say thank you on behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association Section on Legal Practice. This committee is so ably led by our vice chairman, and please take the correction. The word is a Latin word. It has nothing to do with your gender. It's really, if you're going to call me a chairperson or chairwoman, then you might as well call me a womanager as opposed to a manager in that position. So to the vice chairman of the section on legal practice of the Nigerian Bar Association, my sister, Elegant Silk, Folashade Ali, SAN, I thank you for all, bringing your usual vigor and enthusiasm and just excellence to everything you do to this committee. I'm grateful to the other members of the committee who are working with you, who are part of your team. I was delighted to see Ayini Jamide on your panel, my classmate of class of 88. We're called to the bar at the same time, and long-standing friend. So I'm very, very delighted that he's working with us and sharing his expertise, along with the other members of the panel. I have found it informative. I have found it very, very time well spent, and I'm sure that all of our attendees have done so also. It speaks to the topic when you have over 1,000 delegates registering for this at this time when there's sort of learning fatigue because we're getting to the end of the year. But nonetheless, we had that number of delegates registering. Clearly shows that there's a need for this. I'm sorry I'm on the road, so there's a bit of noise in the background. And thanks to our tech team and also, of course, our secretariat. And for those who are not members of the section on legal practice, I saw it in the chat there. Do join us. Do join us. There's a reason the Nigerian Bar set up the business law, legal practice, women's forum, and Fidel, because all of those are complementary and bring different things to the table for you. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, everybody. Do have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Dr. Adetu, grateful, Zerona. Well done. Good moderation. Omori, Oyinkan, thank you. And Mr. Jenny. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.